Good morning and welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners policy sessions on July 27, 2022. Gary Schmidt, what is our first item for today?
Chair Smith, you have a policy session to start. It is updates to the Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 5 for the Damascus area. Karen Burig and Steve Williams from Transportation and Development will present. Please come forward.
Welcome and thank you for coming. Please introduce yourselves and decide who wants to go first.
Certainly. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Karen Burig, and I am the Long Range Planning Manager here at the county.
Hi, and I'm Steve Williams. I am a Principal Transportation Planner with the county.
Welcome. Please continue.
Great. Well, we are here today to provide you with an overview of the Damascus Mobility Plan and get your direction on the process for integrating these amendments into the Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 5, our Transportation System Plan. So the disincorporation of the city of Damascus resulted in an area of unincorporated Clackamas County that was not included within our transportation system plan when we updated that in 2013. At the time that we updated our transportation plan, we allowed the cities, as with every city, to direct the projects within their own jurisdictions. But once they were disincorporated, we didn't have any projects. And so over the past year, DTD Long Range Planning staff, primarily Steve Williams, has worked with a consulting team in the area to look at a motor vehicle system and identify the needed improvements. And so this plan was created in partnership with Happy Valley and ODOT. At the same time that this plan was being developed, Happy Valley was creating the Pleasant Valley North Carver plan, which provides guidance on urbanization up to about 187th. In this particular area. So that's really the guiding document for up to 187th. In that area that's east of 187th, out to the edge of what had been the city of Damascus, that's the area that this particular plan covers. And one of the things that's important to recognize is that since the area east of 187th is not currently planned for urban uses, the Damascus Mobility Plan focuses on roadway improvements that are needed to support the current rural development. So that's important. With that, I'm not going to talk much longer. I'm going to pass it over to Steve so he can provide you with highlights of the plan, about the process. He'll talk about the process and the outcomes.
Can I just have one quick question?
Yes.
Give me a landmark for 187th.
187th. So
Is that east or west of the shopping center or the Foster Road?
So it is west of Foster Road. So I would say that segment of Sunnyside Boulevard, that goes from 187th to, Sunnyside 172nd to Highway 212. It's kind of smack dab in the middle of that. So it is west of the kind of core center of Damascus.
Okay.
Yeah, let's continue and then commissioners, you can ask all the questions you want. Please finish.
Okay, thank you very much. We tried to develop the Damascus Mobility Plan to follow the policies and all of the formatting that had already been established for the TSP when it was updated in 2013. So that once it was eventually adopted, it would fold into the existing document seamlessly. In the course of developing the TSP, we looked at the existing conditions for traffic out in the Damascus area. We studied future conditions based on forecasts from Metro and that we had developed. We developed a project list which focused on an alternatives analysis and also included work we did with ODOT related to the intersections on Highway 212. We identified a total of 22 projects and then prioritized those into the 3 prioritization groups that we use in the TSP, the 20-year capital projects, the preferred capital projects, and finally the long-term capital projects. And we conducted a fairly extensive public engagement process. This was all done during the early part of the pandemic, all the public engagement. And so we actually had to conduct all the public engagement online, which was certainly new to all of us. And we were a little concerned about how that would affect the development of the plan. But as it turned out, that went extremely well. We did several public engagement meetings. We also did a number of workshops with presentations by ourselves and the consultant team. All in all, we had attendance at the public engagement activities of over 600 people, which we were, as I say, very pleased with. We also did some work that Karen referred to with Happy Valley and Oregon Department of Transportation to ensure that we were coordinating with all of their work. The proposed changes that have resulted from this process to Chapter 5 of the Transportation and Systems Plan includes updates to Table 5-3A to D, and you have a copy of that in your packet. Those are the project lists from the Transportation System Plan. There was also updates to the map, which this is kind of a small version of the map, but yeah, that's it. That shows the location of the projects. The new projects proposed in Damascus are highlighted in yellow on that map. And then finally, we made some text changes to Comprehensive Plan Chapter 5, including the amendment of the appendix, the maps and documents, Appendix A, Appendix B, the summary of the supporting documents, and then some minor text amendments in Chapter 5 to refer to this particular section of the updated Transportation System Plan. So on the one hand, it was a year-long planning process to create this document and get to the point where we were ready to bring it to the board and to the Planning Commission. But on the other hand, we felt it was worked out very well with regard to the public engagement and also folding it into the existing Transportation System Plan.
Thank you, Steve. The documents, I have printed out a list of the project list, starts, I believe, on page 46, Commissioners, is what he's referring to. Also, the mobility plan projects, the map is very good, too. It's color coordinated. There's a lot of projects on here, Is there a cost to this implementation?
We have a cost analysis for the projects in Tier 1, 2, and 3. The Tier 1 projects, the highest priority, which are the ones that we hope to complete within the next 20-year time frame, have a total cost of just a little bit short of $7 million. And that is an amount that we believe can be covered from the additional revenue that will come to the county for transportation purposes from Damascus.
What is the revenue source?
So what I would say is that for any of our Tier 1 projects, the revenue comes from a variety of sources. And so any of these projects have not been matched to a specific source yet, but it may come from either federal funding sources, it may come from future road fund, and it may come from other grant sources that we may apply for these particular projects.
So would you continue to do what I believe DTD is doing, is they leverage what they have to go out to try to find the best economic possibilities available at the time?
That's correct.
You would start with the Tier 1, get those completed, and then you would go down.
Yep.
Commissioners, I'm just going to refer to our materials in the packet, 6 steps used to determine the proposed improvements. It starts, I think, on page 1. And there are 2 recommendations, but I would certainly entertain more discussion going forward on this. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, just for clarity, getting back to the Chair Smith's question, the funding is the funding that the city of Damascus would have received that is now this, I mean, that's essentially the geographic area. It's not going to come from our DTD, gas tax revenue, and all the other sources. It comes from this carve-out this area gets?
No, I would not say that that is
Okay.
completely accurate, because we're only getting a certain stream of money from that that had been allocated specifically for Damascus. And that money is used for a variety of different things, such as, paving and, more near-term investments in the transportation system, whereas these projects may be funded by a small portion of that, such as a match from that, or if we were able to get other funds, through these, leverage other funding sources. So
Okay.
I don't want to give the impression that that money will fund all of these projects.
Okay, so what's that annual revenue stream for that Damascus gas tax carve-out?
I would have to turn to Mike. Yeah, he might have a better idea, but we can also get back to you if we don't know the specific amount.
Why don't you get that to us later, because I don't want you have to be put on the spot to guess a number, because it could change, but that's a good question, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Are you Commissioner Savas?
I'm done, thank
Oh,
you.
okay, good. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, good morning. Last year, the state legislature provided some $4 million for a plan to look at Sunrise Corridor. Do these, and that's underway now, as I understand. Do these 22 projects, have they been coordinated with that project?
So that particular project, which we refer to as the Sunrise Gateway Community Visioning Project, really covers an area that is around the Clackamas industrial area that goes from about I-205 out to 172nd. So the areas do not overlap.
Okay.
And also, that particular project hasn't actually begun yet. We're just about to put an RFP out for that project.
Okay, thank you.
Any further, Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, we keep hearing rumors of this swap between Tigard and Damascus. How will this interface with that,
Right.
if that goes forward? And are we at a place where we can get a briefing on what that will be, implications, and how all these pieces interrelate?
So this particular project is about capital projects for the transportation system, and we really reviewed it under the view that this was an a rural area going out into the future. And so it doesn't necessarily overlap with this current conversation that's going on related to the UGB. And it's my understanding that that conversation's really beginning with MPAC, and Commissioner Shull is working on that, and will be brought to you in the future, but it doesn't necessarily overlap this particular project.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Good. You finished, Commissioner Fisher? Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding this presentation? I want to say that this is a ton and ton of work. And our information is 73 pages, and I imagine that's been condensed. And it was pretty heady for us. And for me, that's why I printed out the project list. And the project list is extensive. I do appreciate it. And it shows a lot of recognition of growth, what's happening in the area. I really appreciate what staff has done, outreach you've done with the community, the Planning Commission, and everything on that. Commissioners, I will entertain a motion to approve option number 1.
So move. Second?
Commissioner Schrader has moved to direct staff to move forward with the Planning Commission and board public hearings on amendments to integrate the projects identified in the Damascus Mobility Plan into comprehensive planned Chapter 5 Transportation System Plan. Commissioner Fisher has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Shull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Steve and Karen.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be back in September, at the end of September, at a public hearing.
Great, wonderful.
Thank you.
Gary, what's next?
All right, next we are moving to administrator issues and updates, a carryover from yesterday. We have several topics for you. We're going to start with the second item, Performance Clackamas Infrastructure Implementation Team Update. This is our monthly update for you, commissioners, on one of your 10 project priorities from your Performance Clackamas plan. Today is the Infrastructure Implementation Team. We have several presenters from multiple departments. They are Nancy Bush, Dan Johnson, Dave DeVore, and Ron Waringa. So team, come on up. And there's a memo in your packet as well.
Great. Good morning, Commissioners. I am Nancy Bush, the County Operating Officer. I am not the County Administrator. So, as you know, we do have your 5 strategic priority areas, and we're giving you updates on all of the projects that are listed under those areas. So today, we are under Build a Strong Infrastructure, and we have by 2026, 100% of county residents and businesses where served have access to safe and affordable infrastructure, multimodal transportation, including roads, sewer, and broadband services. So today, I think Ronna is going to be opening, and then we'll have, I'm going to go ahead and take a back seat and let someone else come up.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Ron Waringa with Water Environment Services. Good morning, Commissioners and Gary. First, I'd like to convey Greg Geist regrets that he couldn't be here today due to a recent medical procedure, but he's recovering and will be back with Wes soon, but he really wanted to be here. So I'm filling in for Greg today. I'm here with Dan Johnson with DTD and Dave DeVore, I think, is on his way. With Technology Services, who are co-leads on this implementation team for this infrastructure goal. We're here to give a brief presentation of what was in your packet, the report, the update provided on this strategic result, and answer questions. And so I'm going to give that presentation, and then Dan and Dave will be here to answer questions, and then realign me if I get something wrong for their departments. As Nancy had said, this strategic result is to ensure that by 2026, the county residents and businesses where served have access to safe and affordable infrastructure. The county departments providing infrastructure services that are here today routinely plan and fund and construct projects. And we've been meeting regularly to coordinate these efforts to meet this goal that's 4 years ahead of us. Your packet provides detailed information on key strategies, department performance Clackamas metrics, and ongoing and planned activities. I have a few highlights I'll run through today and really try and preserve a lot of the time for questions if you have them. For our departments, we're doing our capital planning. Planning is a huge part of meeting this result. And we're doing that with financial capacity in mind, certainly. We're actively collaborating and coordinating with one another, as well as our partner agencies to provide these infrastructure projects, agencies like Oak Lodge Water and our partner cities. So we actively work together. We all continue to develop our near-term plans, our capital plans that are fundable, with a phased long-term planning approach that anticipates future funding. If there's time, we can highlight a few key projects from your packet. I just have a few that I wanted to touch on that emphasize the type of work the departments are doing. Wes has completed most of our major system planning efforts, including facility master plans, collection system master plans, et cetera, and we're finishing our Willamette facilities plan that we will use to update our 20-year CIP, our sanitary sewer CIP. We're also completing our first comprehensive storm system plan that will identify infrastructure needs going forward. We're also developing financial strategies that align with those CIPs and will provide rate profiles to help us assess affordability as part of this goal. Transportation Development is developing a 5-year coordinated improvement plan covering capital maintenance and safety needs, and is also updating the county's transportation system plan. DTD is also working to leverage community road fund revenues and seeking regional, state, and federal funding for identified transportation projects. And DTD is also initiating the Sunrise Gateway Visioning Project, for example. Technology Services continues to expand the Clackamas broadband exchange system by adding miles of infrastructure fiber as resources and funding allow. NTS is also working on completing and getting approval for a new Clackamas Broadband Exchange business plan that will define a business model and roles of internet service providers in providing affordable services and expanding that CBX infrastructure in underserved areas. And this is the type of work that's ongoing. And again, there's more information on other projects and initiatives in your packet. In taking a look at what's working well, a couple of things to note. Local coordination and ongoing support from the board and from county administration is certainly going well. Support for these planning efforts and our projects, and including funding sources, supporting new funding sources for infrastructure projects like the Community Road Fund that are getting more projects off the ground. Of course, there are challenges, and we're working through those. One challenge that we're facing, and we will have future conversations about for this particular strategic result, is defining affordability and what this commission considers affordable, and trying to find some consistency across all of our infrastructure services in the county for defining affordability. That's something we still need to do. Also, identifying underserved areas with particular infrastructure needs is an ongoing challenge. There will always be issues that come up when it comes to our systems that we manage. There are changes in regulations, like ADA regulations for transportation systems, emerging water quality regulations that affect our work in WES. And for broadband services, some new federal guidelines on defining affordability and underserved areas that may affect future eligibility of grants. Those are some challenges we've discussed. And lastly, there's limited control over available funding in several of these areas that we need to improve. And in some areas, then our needs far exceed our resources. That's just an issue that is always in the background. Finally, I'll touch on Performance Clackamas a little bit. Departments continue to link the county's infrastructure goals to our department measures for safety and affordability, as shown in your packet. There's some links there. Most departments will be asked this year to update their performance measures to align them with the 5 overarching strategic priorities of the county. And this will strengthen the alignment between department work and the overarching county's goals, and include an opportunity to clarify safety and affordability and include those in our department's performance measures. And that'll be a great conversation to have with the board down the road, and I think you'll hear more about that in coming months. So with that, we thank you for your time, and we'll take any questions if you have them for us.
I have a question, and maybe my other commissioners do too. On page 3 of the memo, responding to public health and economic impacts, you go down the list and it says, households residing in qualified census tracts. Can you talk to me about qualified census tracts, and what does that mean? How does it imply to what we're trying to do here?
That's you. Got to hit this and we'll see. Come on up, here.
Thank you, Dave, for giving a stab at this. And the reason why I asked, because I had a discussion in my office on Monday with a very learned person who referred to the qualified census tracts as they're rolling out ARPA dollars for businesses. So I want to know how that pertains to the language in this report.
If I understand the question, the census tracts are how the government defines where we can apply ARPA or any other grant dollars based on their qualifications for under or not served. And they actually define those census tracts in the maps that we get from them. And then we identify those as those areas that we can then apply for the grant and go work in those areas. And that's only really applies to federal funding. Where we may go on our own dollars is anywhere. That
Okay.
doesn't apply.
So Dave, I'm going to repeat so I understand.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying today that the qualified census tract information is used to identify certain sectors of our county that makes us eligible to apply for federal funds.
Correct.
For what?
For if we want to apply for running infrastructure out to those areas, that would then allow them to have access to broadband.
Okay, but it's just not broadband, correct? Is it other areas, Gary, or do we know, folks?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
my memory, that's a federal standard, federally qualified census tracts, usually for lower income people, as for any type of federal money, any type of federal
But we have to recognize that, correct? and apply it somehow? I mean, it's in the document, I'm asking. Hello?
Okay, well, I guess I'm trying, I may want to ask Duke on this. My understanding is the census tracts that we're looking at are ones that are based on their underserved or not served based on their broadband availability in that area, and those then define on the maps where we can go. And then
Okay.
we already know those areas or will know as the grants roll out.
And you've done a good job in identifying areas for underserved broadband areas, even before you had probably access to the qualified census tract
Pretty much
data.
know where they are. Yeah.
Correct. But I'm thinking that the qualified census tract, applies to vaccinations or health care or a lot of water sewer infrastructure. Is that true?
I
that
do not
true?
know anything beyond CBX, I'll be honest with you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Paul, I know, Paul. I'm just trying to get on the record.
I'll be honest with you, I only know as it relates to underserved or for broadband access, not other qualifying aspects.
Yes, thank you, Dave. I'm going to bring Dan Johnson back up.
Okay, I'll switch.
Appreciate, yeah, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just wanted to shed some light on this so it can help. I have a pretty good idea. I've been following census tracts for, I don't know how, 20-plus years. So there are census tracts all around the county where there's population, and those can be actually underserved by broadband or anything, but they're not qualified census tracts unless a qualified census tract is typically something that's recognized as low income, basically a poor, low-income area where populations are affected deeply. So and because of that, if you are a QCT or an area is a QCT, they are privy to other funding because of that low-income status.
Exactly. It defines the demographics of a certain area. And when you talk about qualifying, the question is, what are you qualifying for?
Correct.
And so when you look at like CDBG, use of CDBG, God, I can't talk today. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Through H3S, they look at certain census tracts and the federal government identifies them as, are they qualifying based on the demographics in that certain area? So it depends on the program that you're looking at and what standards they set up, if they qualify or not. But it basically, again, tells you kind of, here are the demographics of that certain geographic boundary, so.
Okay, so any of the programs that the county engages in, that's an extra step that staff already probably knows what a qualified census tract is. So they would take a look at that, insert their data, and then make a decision if a federal grant was available.
It allows us to better understand the area based on the data available. That's correct, and staff will do that assessment.
Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. But commissioners, any further questions regarding this particular presentation today? Gary?
Okay.
What's next?
Okay.
This is just an update. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff, for your work. Keep moving forward on this effort for the board.
Yeah, thank you very much for this presentation. I know a good amount of work's gone into it.
Thank you. We're moving back to the first item, approval of 2022 agreements with Providence Health Plan for administrative services for Clackamas County self-funded medical benefits. Christy Durham, benefits manager from Human Resources, will give an update. Commissioners, last year you asked you wanted an update before you got to the final consent agenda on any benefit changes for the county. So this is what Christy's doing. She's going to give you an update before it comes to you for final approval to see if you have any questions or feedback. Christy, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning, thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Christy Durham, Benefits Manager. Thank you for your time this morning. The item that we have in front of you today is regarding the Administrative Service Agreement Amendment and 5 summary plan descriptions for our self-insured plans. I want to actually speak quickly to what Gary was just mentioning. You had asked for a timeline related to all of these different things that we bring forward to you throughout the course of a year. We have more of that information that we're going to present to you in another session. That will also include the renewal rates for the health plans. We've just gotten those. What we're focusing on here today is something that's already in process, which is these agreements for 2022. So it's out of sequence, but we are working to get that all in front of you so that you have that visibility ahead of time. The expectation is that we'll bring to you the renewal rates when we have those, which is typically in late July. We'll share that with you and get your feedback, and you'll be able to provide that feedback to the BRCs, the Benefits Review Committees, so that your perspectives can be weighed in when they make their determinations. So wanted to just share that update with you all. So today, we're just going to be focusing on what these summary plan descriptions. Summary plan descriptions, each year, we have different benefit changes that might be legislatively required, and then there are others that are optional. The benefit review committees review those optional benefits. They vote on that and make a determination on what will go forward. So we've outlined in the memo the optional changes that were approved for you, and both the General County and the Peace Officers Association plans elected the same coverage as optional coverages. As far as financial implications, the items are in the current budget of the self-insured fund, and the general fund does not pay out directly for those costs. Those are from participant contributions, department contributions, retiree contributions, other beneficiary contributions. And so before you today is looking at two options: the option to approve those medical benefit SPDs, summary plan descriptions, or you could direct staff to provide additional information for you to consider at a policy session. And our recommendation is to move forward with approval. These are, it's a little bit of a matter of course on these as far as the documents themselves. This is for 2022 plan decisions that were already made in fall of last year for the 2022 plan year. It takes a considerable amount of time for the contracts to get completed and move through. So it is typically a 2 to 4 month process after the end of the year. And I'm happy to share more information about that when we talk more about that timeline, so you can see all of those moving pieces and the dependencies between different actions and decisions.
Financial implications, as you said, self-insurance fund, general fund does not pay, but then you have a note here. The estimated fiscal impact for the 2022 Providence Medical Vision Plan is almost $27 million. I am not clear how that is paid for. Do I assume it's not general fund?
It's not directly from general fund. Yes, it's from
That is a huge benefit. I would have never guessed that a vision benefit for those participating in the Providence plan, which we have Kaiser Plan too, so I don't even know if it's half of our county employees. Do you know how many people?
It's less than half on Kaiser, so it's about 60% of our employee
Workforce?
population are on the Providence plans.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Commissioners, any comments, questions?
So just for clarification, yeah.
Sure.
As I read it, this is for the overall, that 26 million is for all the fees and services related to that, not just vision, correct?
Correct, that's bundled in,
Right, it's a bundle, thank you.
yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Options, commissioners. We have two options. I recommend that we approve option number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved that we approve Providence Medical Plan, Benefit Plan Administrative Services Agreement Amendment and the 5 summary plan descriptions for the 2022 plan year, and direct staff to bring the items to a future consent agenda for consideration. Commissioner Fisher has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Gary, please take the poll.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much for coming forward and presenting this.
Thank you for your time.
So we'll actually put this on next week's business meeting consent agenda to formalize it there.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. All right, next, American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, project update and seeking your direction, board, on next steps. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, will present. There was a detailed memo in your packet. Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you, and good morning again. Nancy Bush, the County Operating Officer.
Nancy, can you move your microphone forward? For some reason, I'm
Yes.
having.
Is that
trouble
better?
hearing. There, good,
Oh,
thanks.
Good, okay, thank you. So, as Gary said, you do have a detailed packet, and we do have a couple, I just want to ask today. So first, going to be giving basically just an update on the projects that we have, where we are with those projects. You have received some detailed updates from projects, so I won't go over those in detail, obviously, because you've had that recently. And then to ask about where do we want to go from here for ARPA. The ask is, do we want to look at our construction projects, take that as a priority and then move forward? Or do we want to talk about just giving, sending money out to the community, et cetera? So we'll get to those things. So first, just want to remind everyone, our vision is the Clackamas Strong, Recover, and Thrive. We still have a committee that's coming together to talk about ARPA projects, what's going on there, and, how the use of the ARPA funds should be done moving forward. We still have a little bit of a moving target on what we're getting from the U.S. Treasury. We do have a quarterly report that is due on Sunday. They changed the reporting requirements again. They have done that for every quarterly report so far. So we're hoping that that will just settle down. Our annual report is also due on Sunday, so we're working on that as well. We'll get that in, which also, those have also changed what that requirement is. The first installment of the ARPA dollars were received on May 2021, and the second installment was just received here in June. We now have a total of $81,277,382 that we received for our ARPA funding, which is what we were expecting. We will no longer talk about our ARPA funding coming in here we have installment 1, installment 2, so now that we have all the dollars, it'll be much easier to talk about. So for the projects, if you'll look at the page that has all of the numbers on it. So I'm just going to go down that list and give an update. So the essential employee pay, you'll see there the total dollars that have been approved, and we have spent all of those dollars. The essential employee pay was done in December of 2021. We have closed that out, and we are no longer reporting on that. It will stay on the report for the U.S. Treasury because they requested that, but it has been closed out now. The Public Health, Behavioral Health, and the Emergency Operations Centers dollars, they have received, was approved $4 million here by the commissioners. They have spent about $2.1 million and have about $1.9 million left. To break that down just a little bit more, Public Health has about $3.3 million of those dollars. They've spent $1.8. They continue to work on disease investigation, clinics for vaccine, et cetera. They do still receive some FEMA funding, and as instructed by the commission, they do spend that money first. Behavioral Health has $200,000 that they've been using. They have used about half of that. They expect their money will run out in December of this year, and that program will sunset at that time. And disaster management has about $400, looks like a little over $500,000, excuse me. And they have spent about $200,000. They're using their money for communications and logistics support in the Emergency Operations Center. So the money for public health and disaster management will probably be used by the end of the fiscal year, which means in June of 2023, there will no longer be ARPA dollars to support that project or the COVID response. So there, like I said, there's still some federal money coming in, but they'll probably use all the funding up.
Have we hired temporary employees for these programs that you say that the ARPA funding will end?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I know disaster management has 2 temporary employees, and public health does have some temporary employees still that are doing some disease investigation. They don't have as many as they used to, obviously, because COVID, has dropped, but there are some.
Okay.
But I don't know the exact number.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
Okay. We have the CBOs, the nonprofits capacity building, and the basic needs. The basic needs contract, I believe, is getting very close to coming to the commissioners to get those dollars out. And we continue, of course, to work on the capacity building. There is a link in the packet for the commissioners as well as for the public if they want to go back and look at that project update that was done just a few weeks ago. The broadband, They've spent a little over, well, they've spent around $2.7 million. As instructed by the commissioners, they have bought fiber, equipment, staff. Those types of things are in that $2.7 million, and of course, they continue to move forward. And it is expected that they will spend all of their dollars. But the whole project is 10.1. Excuse me. The lost revenue through December, almost $11.8 million. That has all been distributed to the programs and departments. We have to collect what that's kind of being spent on for our reports as we turn those in. Well, I don't have all of that information at this time. If the board would like to hear that when we do get it in, I'm happy to provide that information. The social services, the $2.234 million, about $750,000 of that has been spent. When the program first asked for these dollars, the FEMA money was running out. Well, FEMA did extend their dollars, and as we should, we spent the federal funding first. So that delayed spending of some of that money, but we're currently spending that now, and we're expecting that all of those dollars will be spent. And of course, that is for the sheltering for those people who have high risk of COVID, the homeless, and getting them into a hotel program and then eventually getting them into permanent housing.
Nancy, can I ask a question? Commissioners, as she goes through this, you can ask questions too. So when that money runs out, what happens to the population?
So I may have to have Teresa come up, but I believe that this is part of the larger picture of the housing picture that we have here in the county and what we're working with from Metro.
I'm just wondering how that, can briefly say how that transition is going to be made, because the population obviously still exists. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, Teresa Christofferson. I'm the Administrative Services Manager for the Social Services Division. So the non-congregate hotel shelter program was started back in December of 2020 to provide safe housing for highly vulnerable houseless persons. Since that time, those folks have remained in the hotel shelter, and we have been in the process of connecting them with permanent housing resources, including getting them vouchers so that they can get permanent housing, and they're working with the supported housing partners to transition. So far, we've transitioned 101 people into permanent housing. We do have a certain number of folks, approximately 95 folks right now, who are still in this program. They are all service connected. They all have vouchers. We are looking for permanent housing options for them. So the intent with this program, because this has been a successful model, is for us to continue to transfer the existing folks into these permanent housing solutions for them, but to also maintain through the end of the fiscal year these agreements that we have with these hotels, and to hopefully going forward be able to use this as a longer-term model to take folks who are houseless to be able to put them into a hotel shelter program, provide them with intense case management, connect them with services, get them vouchers, and then obviously, hopefully in a much shorter period of time, transition them into permanent housing. It gives them an opportunity to develop resources and skills to be able to do things like, it's really hard to look for work if you can't take a shower.
Sure.
So we're hoping that this program, that the funds that we use for this program will accomplish two things. It will allow us to finish the process that we've started with the folks who originally started in this program, and then it will allow us, as capacity opens up, to bring new folks into the program for shorter term stays.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, if I understood the chair's point that she made earlier, in which I kind of concur, if I understand it correctly, and that is that if we have one-time funding, then, and that funding runs out, then that population is really not secure at that point. And to some degree, we have that with the supportive housing services as well, right? Because after that term expires at 10 years, then they need to go back before the voters and hopefully have success. But I also see the supportive housing services providing, the revenue to do just such a thing. But it was about a year ago, it wasn't you, Teresa, that was here, but it was other staff, H3S staff or HAC staff, that were suggesting that they were going to wind that program, the hotel program, down because it was so expensive. Granted, the need for, just what you stated, for all those very reasons is real, and I think it's extremely valuable. And I've been making the point, and others have as well, agree with staff's suggestion that, transitional shelters of other models that are cheaper to operate can provide that same need, or serve that same need, that same population. So I would suggest that we recognize that this is one-time funding, that we lean for that particular model that you brought up, lean towards the supportive housing services with a goal of standing up a shelter, transitional shelter, or expanding something we already have that is far more affordable, that gets more bang for the buck, because there's only so many dollars. So that's my comment on that, and I just Chair, the other thing, when we get to it, if now is not the time, that's fine, but I really think that we have an opportunity here for a lot of these asks that are in that non-construction phase to be looking at other funding streams for that continuation, so they're not just, we're just building a bridge or a cliff financially, and then they just have to fall off.
Sure, I do think that's,
Yeah, and I would love to see, and just take the one last stab at this, or not the last stab, but the opportunity here, and that is, love to see, in light of the construction project we're taking on with the courthouse, and our financial situation, that this might be a great opportunity to use a good chunk of the ARPA dollars we have for some of these construction projects, such as the libraries, and so forth. Wes has got them. But what I didn't know, and I do see the option or the recommendation to go back and revisit that, and see what those projects' costs are. I don't see a date on these spreadsheets. If this was the ask for the first 40 million.
No, this is what has been spent on the first 40 million. We are not on the second 40 million yet.
Correct.
And this is an update on what has been done with the first 40 million. Paul, you will get a chance.
Yep.
All board members will get a chance to revisit that. Commissioners, two commissioners are in the queue. If you have a question specifically regarding sheltering and social services, I'll entertain that. If not, please exit out, and you can come in at the end and ask more specific questions. That's how I'd like to proceed. You all will get an opportunity to voice your very important opinion. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. I just wanted to talk about the importance of providing a continuum of options for people who are unsheltered, and the hotel motel option is one, and we are looking, and our plan calls for building capacity for the others. One thing I would be interested in, this funding through ARPA was bridge funding. I'm not sure, this is a question, I see Elizabeth in back of the room, you don't have to answer it now, we can answer it later, but there may be an opportunity, maybe homeless services dollars, since they have come in at I believe exceeding the expected revenue, maybe there's an opportunity to move this money out and backfill with those dollars, and I would be interested in knowing that. But, I think this board needs a lot more information before we make a policy decision about removing one option for sheltering, which has been so incredibly effective in moving people from being unsheltered to stable housing. Those are my only comments on that issue. Thank you, Chair Smith.
Interesting point you make. I find that fascinating. Nancy, would you continue, please?
Yes.
Thank you,
might
Teresa,
wanna
for coming up.
Because I have one more. So we have one more from Social Services, the temporary sheltering and social services inclement weather. If you recall, you did do this last year when we had cold weather. At that time, the program was running out of dollars that they were getting from the state. They did get more dollars in, which is why they have not spent any until currently. So Teresa just told me this morning that with the hot weather that we're having right now, they are starting to spend those dollars.
Okay.
So right now, that's $156,000. I would just recommend that we keep that in there for continuing years, because that funding is very volatile, I think. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The Gladstone Library. So as you recall, there's been a delay or a hold on moving forward with the libraries. But with the Gladstone Library, we did decide, of course, to start clearing the property, and then also looking and doing some planning for that. So that program has been spent There's 99,700 on here, but I heard this morning they just got in another invoice. They've spent $137,593 there. And that includes working on the plans and the options for the library and what that may look like. So that's what they're using those dollars for, and they will probably spend the rest of those dollars by the end of September.
Okay.
The ARPA administrative support, which we very much appreciate. So far, we have one staff person that is working on that. We have paid $15,000. We have just almost a whole $2 million left. There's $550,000 of that has been committed. We're working on, we actually have an opening or an RFP out right now for software. And we hope to close that next week and have, that will be about probably $150,000, depending on how much comes in. We have at least another $250,000 that we need for either a contractor or staff to help with some of the ARPA things. That $2 million right now is all we have for administrative dollars, so it would have to, unless we get more, it's going to have to help us through the whole.
So that needs to be up, and because we have to be in compliance. We have no
We do
choice.
have to be in
And it's a
compliance,
lot
yeah.
of time.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're bringing on a new person, accountant/person to do this?
We're looking at someone in finance and then also someone that is going to be a little bit more, hopefully be able to just spend their time working on even just pulling together our reports, which are very intense and are changing. Like I said, they change every quarter. So someone that would just be working on that as well.
Well, at $2 million, we're still below normal administrative costs that is commonplace out
Yes.
there. Martine also brought on somebody? Gary?
Yes, and that is actually the person here, the $15K that we paid, that is the person that is working on CPOs.
Okay, and that was for the nonprofits' basic needs.
And the capacity building. That person is working on both of those
Oh,
projects.
that she is, okay.
Yes, she is.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Commissioner,
Yeah, that was the question I had about nonprofits' capacity building and basic needs. Fundamentally, what's the difference between, I think I understand what it is, capacity building versus basic needs.
Yeah,
like-
the basic needs is, helping people with things. It could be food, diapers.
So it's the direct service delivery.
It's that direct service delivery.
Okay.
Capacity building is working with the CBOs to help them with capacity building to serve the populations that are in need.
So that is giving them one-time dollars at this point in order to increase their
So-
their ability to serve.
So the program is, it is one time, all of this is one-time dollars.
I know, that's why I'm worried.
But it's over a period of years, because the dollars have to be spent by the end of '26. So the capacity building program, it's not like, we're going to give the program all of their money at one time. They have to provide reports, show us how they're working with the communities, they're meeting their goals, they're meeting, what we need for ARPA and to turn in. So they would get the money incrementally over a period of years.
Is there any requisite for showing how they can sustain those programs?
Yes, that is all part of how we have to build the program out.
That's what I was
The
wondering.
risk factors are considered, everything, and a lot of that is in our ARPA guidance that we have to follow. So, yes, absolutely.
So any capacity building we do, the underlying assumption is that our CPOs will figure out ways to maintain those levels of service as they
That
build
is our
capacity.
hope.
Okay. Oh, our hope, okay.
It is our hope.
there's no guarantee.
There is no guarantee.
There's no
But it is the
guarantee.
hope.
Doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful as they move forward with this that they're coming up with financial plans on how to sustain the services.
Yes. And this process is, hopefully will help them do that
Okay.
as well.
The other question I had was business support, business service centers. I know that we had decided to kind of move that into having it potentially for other things, but we have given money to the businesses and for support centers. How much have we given them?
So for the businesses, from the CARES dollars that we received, I believe it's
Okay.
8 million, I believe is the number.
So they have gotten $8 million.
Yes, through CARES dollars, not
From
through
CARES
ARPA.
dollars, not from this.
Not
Okay.
ARPA,
For the first swath.
yes. That was the first money that came in.
But not
That
ARPA.
came in really, really fast, and, yeah.
Yeah, I was asked by the business community about that.
I can
and-
comment on that, too,
And I
if you'd
wish you
like.
could, yeah, that'd be great. Go ahead.
If you don't mind.
No, not
Are you,
at all.
have you finished with all your questions?
Yes.
I would like to address the dollars in the right column, the remaining ARPA dollars. Commissioner Fisher did it for a little bit. I was approached by the North Clackamas County Chamber. They have become certified as a subrecipient grant authority, and they are getting $850,000 from the state of Oregon. Okay. They're going to start a very ambitious advertising program in August. They're going to open up applications September 7th for 1 week. And the executive director expects they will have gone through all of their $850,000 for business support that fast. She came to me, she's come to Martha, and she's asked, any of those unfilled applications that they have run out of the $850,000 for, if the county would use some of our ARPA dollars for business support. And we have not done that yet. And Mark, and you've had a very good discussion about that. And we don't know if there's going to be, maybe the chamber won't use all their $850,000. We don't know, but she suspects it will go fast, and she has made an ask of this board. I suppose we could consider that today, or Gary, you tell me when the appropriate time to consider that is. I do think that we probably should, we're not in a hurry to spend our ARPA dollars. It would come in very fast because they want all of these grant applications completed by, I believe, September 25th, if my date is correct. So the grants come in September 7th through the 14th. She's already hired staff. She has bilingual. Any business who does not speak English or Spanish, they have contract services for the other languages. And they have done a fantastic job in preparing for this. They've hired several people at the chamber to administer this. So I'm throwing this out to commissioners. What you think about that? You know, we're not talking millions and millions and millions. I don't believe. I could be underestimating. But Martha, your light is on?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I'll shut it off, but I will say that, yes,
off.
I also spoke to them, and I think it might be something we should consider.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm not considering like millions and millions, but I think it would bode us well since we have not used ARPA dollars for business support yet. And they're doing all the work for us. We don't have to do it. Although I did explain to her, we are responsible for reporting. They're using the same contractor, by the way, that I believe the county is using too in this. There was a name and it escapes me. Commissioner Fisher and then Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. As the record from when we had this discussion before in removing the $4 million for business recovery, Commissioner Savas and I were pretty adamantly opposed to that, knowing from having our conversations with chamber members throughout Clackamas County that right now is critical for recovery. The way that program was set up with the $10,000 grant applications within the criteria of ARPA, which looked at areas of greater need, is very good criteria and wanted to see that continue. So I would suggest that the ARPA is set for business recovery. That's an absolute appropriate use. But I would want to broaden it to not just the North Clackamas Chamber, but we have needs across Clackamas County, and to revisit the decision that where we
Can I
removed
address that?
that $4 million. Yes.
I can address that because the North Clackamas County is using the qualified census tract data, which includes they're doing the city of Sandy, and they're reaching as far south. They're doing Oregon City, Gladstone, reaching as far south as Molalla and Estacada. The cities of Wilsonville and Lake Oswego are doing their own things. So with that in mind, it does have far-reaching.
Yeah, that's
with
great
what they're doing.
information.
And we could always have a report, and, you know, this is just what I was told. I don't have anything in writing. Certainly staff can check that out. Commissioner.
Chair Smith, before I go, my question would be, and you asked this too, what's the appropriate way for us to get a briefing on that if we need to make a decision quickly with recesses coming up, but I would be very interested in
Or-
pursuing this.
Or we could just have something in writing and send it out to, I'm going to defer to staff on that, but Commissioner Savas has his light on. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you brought up the qualified census tracts again, and that money was going to be, that 4 portions of that money was targeted specifically to that. And I think that that is a appropriate means to make, again, getting the businesses that are in those areas, the needs that they have, which are higher than that of maybe some of the wealthier areas that aren't QCTs. So for those reasons, I would really like, and I think that really, I'm assuming here today, Chair, just as a point of order, that the recommendation that's in the beginning of the packet, which I'm assuming we're not going to spend a great deal of time today making any decisions, that it was more about the option, the first bullet under options says instruct staff to make construction projects a priority or not. And then the other bullet is instruct staff to send all available funding. That will make a call on one of those two. But to Commissioner Fisher's point, I would like to revisit that, and if there's a better, more appropriate time for that $4 million, then, as long as that's done here within a reasonable amount of time, weeks ahead or days ahead or
That's
whatnot.
on the next briefing, correct?
Okay.
Correct, Nancy?
The-
I'm not sure.
talking
I
about-
don't see an option. This is just an update on,
Right now, we were doing the update, and
Yeah.
yes, on the first page, though, the other is to talk about the
yeah, and
future.
it's a little
Yes.
bit confusing.
Yes.
I got off on
Yes, it's
something
okay.
else this
It's
morning,
okay.
too, I was confused on. So I'm still on the memo, American Rescue Plan Act project update and direction.
Yes.
Okay, the options, okay, here we go.
So, yeah.
So how do we want to proceed on this? It sounds like a majority, Commissioner Scholl has not commented, but
Okay.
a majority of the people want to see more dollars, possibly through the Clackamas County Chamber. Gary?
All right, if you'd let Nancy finish on giving you a status update on the money you've already approved, she hasn't done that yet.
Okay.
Let her finish that, and then we'll talk about how you want to spend the remainder. Our recommendation is to prioritize your construction priorities first, but the time for that conversation is just a minute. If you could just hold that thought, please.
Yeah.
Nancy, would you finish up,
So-
please?
Yeah, just wrapping up the project, so, and actually, my last statement was about the rescinding of the $4,150,000. So that has been put back into the ARPA dollar, that total account, so that's no longer considered earmarked for anything. So as we talk about this, remember that going forward. So we have the total approved spending of almost $40.5 million, which is what you have said yes to so far. And our balance to be committed is $40.7 million. So then I was going to go into the discussion about the projects and what you want your guidance to be moving forward. So I don't know if you have more questions on what
don't
I
know.
just finished up.
Well, go ahead. So that's a whole different,
Okay.
correct?
Yes, so I did in the project list, I did go through the project list because after we got the final rule, there were some things that either we needed to remove because they were no longer qualified, or we did have some discussions about other projects. It's like, yeah, we just need to take that off because, times have changed. This, list has been around for about a year now, so it has been updated. So what you do see before you, anything that has that blue stripe across the top is a non-construction, what we're calling non-construction requests. And these are very big pages if you have it printed out.
Nancy, so you're looking at these spreadsheets right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
I guess my pages are big, yours are not.
Thank you.
If you'll look at the last page for non-construction projects, you'll see there what that total amount request would be, which is $15.5 million. So the projects that you're seeing there are projects that we have collected from either the community, other departments. It's come in different avenues as we talked to people and sent things out and said, do you have something that you would like to have put into ARPA? We took a look at it to see what was qualified, what was not qualified. Anything that did not qualify under the rule, we talked to them, said this is being taken out, et cetera. So they know why it wasn't qualified.
And you're referring to the page with the blue stripe across the top that
Yes, ma'am.
says total ARPA non-construction requests.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
And that amount is $15,521,576.
Yes, ma'am, at this time. So I'm not going to go, obviously, through all of the projects because there's so many because of time, but those are things for you to look at and consider as we talk about our next steps.
Okay. And that is not during this particular presentation. That is during the next presentation?
Well, I think this is all running together now. So I'm now on to what do you want for our next steps?
Yeah.
Okay.
In hindsight, Commissioners, staff came to me and said, how do we want to do this? We want to tee this up and then do this. And my gut told me it would be confusing, and guess what? It is confusing. I have Gary and 2 other commissioners in the queue. Gary, would you like to make a
Sorry,
comment?
Commissioners, it makes sense to me, but I have a strange brain. So
Yes, it is.
we're not asking you to make any dollar decisions today. We're seeking your guidance, and I'll say it again. Staff, I am strongly recommending you prioritize these multiple construction projects that you have authorized and take that off the top with ARPA dollars. That will be a huge relief to our general fund, and I'm seeking your just general direction that do you support that or not? And then whatever's left, we'll come back to you with what those numbers are for the construction projects that are allowable use of ARPA dollars. Whatever's money's left, we'll come back to you. How do you want to spend that remainder? That's our
Okay.
question. Thank you.
Okay, I have 2 commissioners. I'm sure have questions. Paul, go ahead.
I think you captured it.
Okay,
That's how
good.
I understood the packet.
Yeah.
That's how I understood the recommendation. I agree with that. That'll give us an idea of how much room we have, and then whatever's left over, we have that option of spending. So I concur.
I do, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. I keep having this visual in my mind of the scoring that you used for the construction projects. Is that the next presentation?
Yes.
Oh,
That's what I
yes.
keep going to, but we get off track here. And so, to me, that's why it's confusing.
I understand, yeah.
Okay, because we still have remaining dollars here that have not been spent yet. Okay, whatever. Commissioner Fisher. You're done?
Okay, so, and hopefully this helps too, in full transparency, which is why you're getting all of the projects that we received and that information we have. So I want to be transparent with you as well as with the public. So I hope that helps too. So now for the construction projects, which is the green banner at the top. You'll have several pages of that. The amount requested at this time, please note, I did my very best to find these numbers. Some of the numbers some of them may have increased. I don't know that yet because we all know construction has went up. Those costs have went up. There's conversations still around the libraries, so please keep in mind, this is the best I could do right now. After you give us direction, there will be a lot more effort put into that. So right now, we have amount requested right now, almost $5 million in construction requests. All of these construction requests, I have worked with county council and with PGA and others, just, to make sure we're reading things right. The libraries, for example, we definitely know because they are in the QTC, the qualified census tracts as well, and, that makes them eligible. There may be pieces that may not be eligible, but for the most part, they are eligible, but we need to determine what that looks like. I think the lion's share will be eligible.
Of what?
Of what
What you recommend?
we're recommending, yes. Yes, if not all. But, yes, working with the U.S. Treasury has been challenging.
On which presentation?
Well, just as we go through working with ARPA dollars and trying to determine what
I'm trying to figure out which piece of paper you want me to look at.
What I want you to look at is, it's really not a piece of paper. What I want you to consider is just knowing what you know here. You have all of the information, the bottom line, right? You have 2 bottom lines. And the question is, do we want to look at the construction projects, put our energy there, determine and make those our priority for the group to move forward? Then come back, as Gary said later, and say, well, this is what we have left, and where do we want to put these dollars that we have left?
So Chair, just to expedite it, I move that we go for the first option, instruct staff to make the construction projects a priority and provide final determination of eligibility and the funding amount, which means they'll refine these numbers and,
Yes.
and bring them back to us.
I think that's very good. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second, and Commissioner Fisher, you had your light on.
Yes.
I apologize for not getting to you.
That's all
sooner.
right. So one thing I would like to have us, I think everybody will agree with this, in the review of the construction projects, if there are other sources of dollars to dig deep and prioritize that. I know that with the C-800, and I'd meant to text Stephen Madcore about this yesterday, and I forgot to do it, so I'm just going to put this out there. If there's an opportunity for that challenge that we have with that overage to go out to the voters at some point, that's something that's being mulled around.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because the voters approved C-800, and so to deal with that challenge.
We do have another avenue for the C-800
Okay,
money.
well, if there's any other avenue besides ARPA for that, I would rather not use ARPA dollars.
That's correct. That was listed, and you're right.
And that's listed. So whatever we need to do for any of these, if there's any other funding source, because having the opportunity really of a lifetime of a direct allocation to help us through this recovery is something that is a signature for this board and for this county of our service, and to do it as most effectively as possible. But with that, I already let Chair Smith know that I needed to get to an
Yes.
appointment, so I'm going to go. But
Thank you.
you all know where I'm at with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Fisher. There is a motion on the table to approve option 1 to go ahead with the prioritization of construction projects. Seconded by Commissioner Savas.
I made the motion.
I mean, Commissioner Savas, yes, you made the motion, and
Either, I think Martha or Mark, I think. both. I heard
Martha
both.
and Mark both seconded at the same time.
okay, and there's a second.
There's a second.
Any further discussion? Thank you. Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0, and the vote will reflect that Commissioner Fisher had to leave for an appointment. We'll leave it open for her to vote later if she wants to do that. As chair, I think I reserve the right to do that. She may want to absolutely give this a unanimous consideration. Okay, what's?
Thank you, Commissioner. So to wrap this up with a nice little bow, big bow, what we're going to do is we're going to now look at all the construction projects and come back to you with what the numbers that we could spend, the amount of allowable uses of ARPA dollars for those projects, come back to you with that number, show you what's left, and then have you then guide us on how you'd like to spend the remainder. We're also going to check with the North Clackamas Chamber to make sure that they are correct on that federal subrecipient paperwork so that they could potentially receive ARPA. We'll confirm that. And then if so, we'll come back to you as well on how you could distribute business dollars, perhaps to the chamber and others. We'll also come back with research on that. We have our assignment.
That sounds very good. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, next is a discussion on your construction project priority prioritization that you asked for, Commissioners. Caroline Hill from County Administration, Policy Advisor, has done an outstanding job coordinating this effort in our office and with other departments, and has brought together, has an update for you on what we feel as staff, that I'm sorry to, go ahead, Caroline, please.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. I am Caroline Hill, Commission Policy Advisor. I'm here today to talk about the project priority, I'm having trouble with that word too, and readiness exercise. I have provided a memo which goes over the 6 projects that went through this exercise and the criteria that the BCC approved back on May 4th, 2022. That criteria was used to score the projects. A team consisting of 6 policy advisors and a representative from the Equity Office met and scored the 6 projects. The results are included in the memo. This exercise is a communication tool that you can use to better inform and consider future construction decisions. Happy to answer questions.
And you used a scoring criteria. How did you arrive at the score on this? For instance, all the numbers across, they different. So, and the highest score is 100?
Right. So we had 5 criteria, 20 points each.
20 points each. Mm-hmm. Got it.
And each person, based on the information provided by the project leads, we used our own, thought process to come up with a number.
Use your own metrics and discernment to give them a number.
That is right.
Got it. I didn't have to do that. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, appreciate the work here. I would suggest that there be another line added, another criteria added, and that is that that some of these, and I'm speaking to, well, I forgot the measure, which one it was 3-310, I think it was a library measure, but they were voter mandated, in essence, that there was be a completion and a promise that the library district was formed on, and both the Gladstone Library and the Oak Lodge Library, that closure of that mission for the library district has not been completed. These two projects close that loop, settle a lawsuit, and basically brings that to a close. We fulfill the mission and the promise to the voters to provide library services and structures within the area. That's essentially a simplification of 3-310, I believe.
Well, there is line number 2, Paul, that says mandated service.
That's the mandated service. I think that was meant to say that it's mandated by the state. And this one here that I'm speaking to is one that's mandated essentially by the voters.
Yes, the second criteria is mandated by the state, by ORS or statute.
I think then the libraries would score higher if scoring's a factor here. But if there's resources to do this with ARPA money, maybe it's all for naught. It's all moot.
I don't think we need to add another column to make one project have more points than the other. I'm not going to entertain that. I think the scoring is fine. That was not a lawsuit. I thought it was a settlement agreement. I did not go to a lawsuit on the libraries. But commissioners, any further comments on this? This is just a presentation and information. We're not going to vote to accept, reject, or whatever on this.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I do like this report. You've tried to capture what we've been talking about for a very long time, and I'm trying to scroll back up on my computer that doesn't want, here we go. The readiness assessments, I'm going to put those in the record. Property has been identified, property has been secured, the budget has been set, other funding has been secured, has a community outreach plan. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a librarian, though, Chair, if I didn't just put a plug in for libraries. You know, is it a core county service? I would argue yes. But again, my bias is as a trained librarian with that. So I just want to put that out there and just to get it on the record that it really is the best thing we can do for maintaining a participatory democracy. I do agree with Commissioner Savas on this point.
Well, we have not said no to libraries.
I know.
Just because it doesn't have the points that you want on this particular criteria, which at the very best is subjective, but they try to use, quantified data to do it. I don't think that we have to go, thinking, oh my gosh, this project is not going to be funded. I don't think that is the purpose of this particular exercise.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to tell you I love libraries.
Because we made a motion that passed earlier.
Yep.
We know what those projects are.
Mhm.
I think the trouble for us going forward is how much we're going to allot. Yeah, full funding, what's the match, that type of thing.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, Chair, I'm just going to say it a little bit differently. I concur with, I think, at least at the very minimum, what Commissioner Schrader is speaking to, but I'll say it a little bit differently. I don't think this fairly reflects the column all the way to the left. For example, OSU Extension Service, if you look at what formed that district, if you will, that mission's been met and is being met with the tax base currently. On libraries, it's not. So I want to just reiterate, I think that's an important factor that's not considered here. The other one is it serves Clackamas County. I guarantee you, if you look at the foot traffic through any library in Clackamas County, it far outweighs the foot traffic going through the OSU Extension building across the street. So when we talk about serving, libraries serve a lot of people. There's a lot of foot traffic through there. So I don't think this is a fair reflection, frankly, of reality. So I'm not going to say it's a polite protest, but I disagree with the scoring. on the criteria.
No, actually, I think OSU is just as important as the library's extension, but
I do
that's just
too,
me.
because, hey, you know what is,
I will disagree.
and the reason why I like the extension service is because of one of our 10 goals that we put on farming and being able to feed ourselves, and we're going to accomplish that goal, I believe, through the extension service. That is why the extension service is totally aligned with what we passed on our 10 goals. Gary?
Yes, so this is just an exercise, a discussion, opening the discussion, no decisions today. You get to make the decisions ultimately, Commissioners, on our projects. This is just an exercise, really. Commissioner Fisher is online and has raised her hand to speak.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher.
Great discussion, and I'm going to join Commissioner Savis's protest. Just for the discussion purposes, I do think that anything that's subject to voter approval, to contracts, to settlement agreements, and that's all the libraries there was a lawsuit that was settled, and there is a contract and an agreement with Gladstone. So that must be a criteria for us to consider with looking at who we're at.
Gary, I had trouble understanding, it was breaking up. I don't know what she
Yeah,
said.
she
Do you know?
was affirming what Commissioner Savis was saying, and Commissioner Schrader supporting libraries and the voter intent and all of that.
We have not said we are not supporting libraries with this. Commissioners, I think, seriously, you're getting all balled up on this criteria chart. Commissioner Schull, you're up.
Yes, Caroline, thank you for this little tool, another way to look at prioritization. A question for you. On the county jail, on the 25% project match, do they have any money
Not yet.
earmarked? Okay.
Not yet. And that is, I just want to add that the scoring was based on the strength of the answers that the project leads provided.
Okay.
We try to remain
Got it.
aside from, all the background that we have, it's just based on the information that they provided. It's just at a glance, it was a one-sheet form that they filled out.
Mhm. Yeah, I just want to make sure that there wasn't money out there that we didn't know about. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Gary, what's next?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Again, that's just a discussion. Thank you for your input. And the last item today is a carryover from yesterday. That's Commissioner Communications.
Chair, I have an appointment to go to, and I kind of expressed my communications yesterday, so I'm going to depart.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Savis. Okay, Gary, please continue.
Yep, so if any of the three remaining have any Commissioner Communications, otherwise, that's it.
Well,
Go ahead.
I have some things, but I think I'd rather keep them till tomorrow.
Yeah, because you'll have a time tomorrow at your business meeting as well, so.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just make one comment. I just got back from NACO, and I have piles of literature for every single one of you, from everything from infrastructure to veterans to what counties do. So basically, Christina and I are going to start compiling that so we can get you that information. I did talk to Commissioner Schull yesterday. There's a national movement to do green light for veterans during Veterans Week. I was hopeful maybe he might take the lead on that. It's pretty easy to do. You just encourage everybody to put green lights to remember our veterans. It was started in New York State, and the Veterans Committee at NACO wants to do it nationally across the country. So that's all I got for now.
Okay, I'm going to likewise hold my comments until after the business meeting tomorrow. Thank you for that very much. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.